Hey guys, and welcome to your next episode of the One Piece podcast. My name is Rick, here to talk about some fun and exciting things going on in the One Piece world. Last time we talked about the new live action One Piece show that's coming to Netflix, hopefully later next year. It seems like it hasn't had any updates lately, so we're going to move on and talk about some other things. What I want to talk about next is Wano. Of course, the big topic right now in One Piece, the number one subject, possibly the number one arc, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Wano, what's going on right now? What happened just last chapter and what we're going to be seeing happening for the rest of the arc. So I want to talk about that. So let's just dive right into it. Wano Kunai, the author Oda has been building up Wano for pretty much all of One Piece. I mean, we all know it was coming way back into the days where they just talked about this island of samurais that, of course, Zoro has always been interested in. But more importantly, in Thriller Bark, where it's been named, and we see Ryuma, the zombie that Zoro has to fight, and he gets his new sword, Shuichi, something like that. So basically that samurai is from Wano. Zoro has come back to Wano, brought that sword back to Wano, and we'll get into that a little bit too. So it's always been talked about, but more importantly, it is Japan. So many of these other arcs are based off of other countries, either the landscape or the culture, sometimes a lot of both. Wano is all Japan. I mean, it's Japanese culture, Japanese artwork, the islands, the hot baths, the mountains, everything about it just screams Japan. So of course that's going to be literally near and dear to Oda's heart, because they're in Japan. He lives in Japan. That's where this manga came from. So obviously it's going to be the most important arc. So it's always been hyped up, and this Wano arc is leading right into the next major war, probably the final war of One Piece. It's leading all up to that, and Oda has already said many times that this war is going to be the war of all wars. It's supposed to dwarf the Marineford arc, and we all know how crazy that war is, so this is supposed to be way better than that. So this is leading right up to that. So far, at this point, July 27th, 2020, it's all a build-up, and now it's spilling over, so we'll talk about what's going on right now. But to start with, we'll do some recapping. I'm not going to go into details. Again, most of my podcasts are going to be for the people who are up to date. So big spoiler alert, if you have not read all the way up through Wano right now and you're not wanting to be spoiled, I would stop now. Otherwise, continue on. It's all good information. If anything, it's just going to add to it, so when you read it, you get a better understanding of what's going on. So during this Wano arc, a couple other things are happening. So I want to talk about those first, and then we'll just go right through Wano. For instance, the Reverie, the big meeting of all the kings in the world that happens, I think once every 10 years, they said. They all come together and have a big meeting. It's been revealed that the revolutionaries have crashed that meeting. We don't know what happened, and we also know that the Shichibukai have been disbanded. That was one thing they at least got to in the meeting before it got crashed by the revolutionaries in Sabo. The Shichibukai, the 7 warlords of the sea, have been abolished. Every man for themselves. It means you were once protected by the government. You were the military dog, so they used to call you. Now you're back to just a lowly pirate. That is your title. So we see all these marine ships heading to the different islands. All the 7 warlords, Boa, Mihawk, they're all up for grabs, and most of them are excited for the fight, and they're kind of like, bring it on, So it's going to be interesting to see who was captured, who was defeated, and who won and is continuing to be a pirate warlord, on the sea, not protected by the government. So those couple things happen. Those are exciting things, and I hope to see more of that soon. And then basically what I want to do now is talk about the timeline of Wano, the events leading up to it. What I'm about to say is not what happens chronologically in the manga. It's what happens chronologically in the timeline of One Piece. So I'm just straightening everything out. Again, I'm trying to get your mind wrapped around it. We're not going to recap everything. I just want to straighten things out to you. For instance, Odin. It all starts with Odin. Odin is the son of the shogun of Wano, and he's expected to grow up and be, following his father's footsteps. But of course, he doesn't like that. Wano is this amazing country that has closed borders, so they don't allow anyone out and they don't allow anyone in. The samurai are said to be so strong that the military, the world government, doesn't even mess with them. So they leave them alone and they let them fend for themselves. Unfortunately, that leads to some things coming up. So Odin, way back when, grew up wanting to see the world. So eventually Roger pirates, come to Wano. Odin joins Roger's crew, sails around the world because he can read the poneglyphs, and Roger needed someone to read the poneglyphs. So they go all around the world. You know what happens with Roger. We get a lot of big flashbacks of Roger in this arc as well, more than we've ever seen before, so that's a lot of fun too, watching their pirate crew. So Odin goes around the world, comes back, finds his land, the land of Wano, taken over by Cato, and it's decimated. The air is poisonous with smog. The waters are poisonous. The lakes, the rivers, the land is just poisonous as well. It's burnt down. Nothing can grow anymore. No crops, no animals. All the animals drink out of the lakes and rivers, so they're poisonous. So their people are suffering. Obviously, Odin, loving his country very much, goes against Cato. Basically, Cato gets him to not do anything. He tricks him and eventually kills Odin by boiling him alive, and his retainers are able to escape into the future. Odin's wife has the time fruit and is able to send herself and others forward in time. So he sends all of his buddies, the 9 scabbards, into the future, 20 years into the future, and basically says this is when stuff's going to happen. Go 20 years into the future and please save my country. So 20 years into the future is now. Perfect spot to land because Kinemon meets up with Luffy and the Straw Hats in Punk Hazard. So again, now we're building all the way back from Punk Hazard. We meet Kinemon, Momonosuke, and we learn Momo is the son of Odin, so he's literally should be next in line for everything coming up. So it's building and building from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa to Zoe, and now we're here. Luffy and his crew enter Wano. They get swept away in the giant waterfalls that you have to climb to even get to the country. Luffy awakes on a beach by himself with the Sunny. So that's where our story begins. That was everything I just said kind of sprinkled out throughout the whole arc. So again, I'm trying to go chronologically here. Luffy wakes up on the beach and there's some giant animals fighting, and of course he can tame them because he's a badass. And then this little girl comes out and she is literally able to tame them with her devil fruit ability. She's able to pull dongos, which are little dumplings, out of her cheek, and when she feeds them to an animal, they become tame and do whatever she says. Her name is Tama, and it happens to be her 8th birthday. Maybe that's going to come up, I don't know why, but they do mention that specifically. Luffy basically saves her from these animals fighting and these people that are after Tama herself. So Tama wants to repay Luffy. They go back to her place and she gives Luffy the only bowl of rice she has. Luffy, not knowing anything about the country, scarfs it up, says, "Thank you very much for the meal. Can I have some more?" And she goes, "Of course not. I only get 1 bowl of rice a year for my birthday. The rest of the year I'm trying to, make do with whatever I can." Luffy slowly starts to learn there's a lot of people that are starving, but there are places where there are good food. So he obviously wants to make it up for her. And now she gets really sick because she's drank the water because she's so hungry. So he takes her into town to get her some help. All right? So this is all setting up the rest of the events. On Luffy's way into getting her help, he meets Zoro. Zoro's obviously just being a badass out in Wano, eating poisonous fish, drinking poisonous water. He's got tummy rumbles. Literally diarrhea is a running gag in this whole arc because everybody just keeps eating bad things. Kinemon especially later. It's kind of funny. Anyways, Zoro and Luffy meet up. It's a lovely experience. We always like when our two best buds meet up, interact with each other, and then Basil Hawkins, one of the supernova, comes into play. We find out he's working for Cato. If you remember, Basil, Kid, and Apu had a short-lived alliance to go up against Cato, and it didn't go so well. They got beat instantly. So basically, be beaten by them, or team up to go against them, or join them. Those are your three choices. So Basil, having been beaten by him, joined Cato's crew and is now working for him. So Basil goes after Zoro and Luffy because he knows something's going on. They get away on Tama's big dog lion thing, and Basil gets to show off his straw fruit a little more. His straw fruit is so evil. He gets to choose members of his crew, what we think are his crew. It's probably just fodder from Cato, but he picks them to be sacrifices for himself. So when Zoro lands a slice almost instantly right across his face, killing any other person, his sacrificed friend gets sliced across the face and dies instead. And we know Basil can choose up to 10 targets at a time. That'll be important later. So we see he's pretty much untouchable at the moment. Not only that, he goes so far as to reading his cards. He shows another friendly fire card. I believe we've seen that card before, which means he's got to kill one of his people. And he pulls another card, and it's a power-up card for him. And we see his straw sword turn into this giant voodoo straw man that goes after Zoro and Luffy and shoots nails at him, pulls out a giant sword. Zoro's able to block it, of course. So just some really, really good supernova action. We don't see a lot of that enough, but here in this arc we see a decent amount of it. So it's very cool to see these guys. They've always been talked up since, way back when, before pre-time skip, so supernovas are some of my favorite characters, and Basil Hawkins was always my favorite supernova, so it's great to see him some more. So they escape from Basil. They meet Otsuru, which happens to be Kinemon's wife. She takes them to Okiku's tea shop. Okiku, we later find out, is one of the 9 scabbards that has been hiding out, waiting for the moment for her friends to come back 20 years later, Okiku, we figure out, is a trans samurai. She is a male that identifies as a female. Once again, just another amazing part. Oda includes everybody in his story. We got so many Okamas. There's whole kingdoms of gay people, trans people, bi, whatever you want. So it's awesome that we see one of the main, strongest characters in this arc is a trans woman or a trans man. And it's amazing. So she's awesome. She pulls out her samurai moves and is a badass with it. She's got a crazy ass mask later on, turns into this whole another different person. So anyway, they bring her to Okiku at her tea shop. She's able to heal Tama from the poisons. She's basically sleep it off, take some medicine, and they go from there. So let's see, where are we? Okay, so now we are in Leftovers Town, and Luffy really starts to hear the story about what is happening. He knew Tama was starving, and he wanted to get her some food, but now he's learning of Leftovers Town and all the strife that has come with it. Basically, they all live off leftovers, if you couldn't tell, all from the capital. They're great, big, happy place on the mountain with good crops, clean water, clean air, and they basically hoard everything for themselves and let everything else kind of trickle down effect. So they're all starving, there's no clean water around, they do everything they can just to live to the next week. Obviously, Luffy, wanting to help, says, "There's clean food and water over there? Well, I'll go get you some." So, of course, he's ready to help out. And then what happens? Of course, Otama is taken by Cato's men because they hear of her ability to tame wild beasts. Being the beast pirate, they probably think that's a pretty cool ability, so they take her, they kidnap her, and run off to the city. Of course, Luffy's gonna join, and who joins with Luffy? Okiku. She obviously wants to help out, and she's very strong. She pulls out her katana, and she's ready to fight, So they go after Otama, and they get to the city. There's a big sumo wrestling competition going on, so of course Luffy has to step in and own that, and that gets the attention of all the other big guys, specifically Hold'em. Hold'em is the first headliner that we see. So there's different levels of Cato's crew. There's the gifters, which are the smile users. Smile is the artificially created devil fruit that Caesar was working on back in Punk Hazard. Don Quixote had the whole underground operation to sell them to Cato and everything. So that's what this has all been about. Smile factories, Smile being sold to Cato. Now we see the outcome of that, Cato's army full of these Smile users. They are basically zone devil fruit users with very, very random abilities. Some of them are created hybrid. They got the regular kind of hybrid zone fruit experience, and that's probably the best experience you can have because some of these other ones are super dumb. They got different animals sticking out of different parts of their body and things like that. Some of them don't seem too helpful. Some of them are just really cool. Hold'em is a headliner, which is a step above the gifters. And Hold'em's ability is a lion right in his belly. A lion, big old lion head sticking out of his belly. And he's apparently pretty strong, but pretty stupid as well. The lion and Hold'em himself seem to each share a consciousness, but they share a body. So at one point the lion gets pissed at Hold'em and punches himself in the nuts, and that hurts both of them. So it's just good comedic relief. But these Smile users are just coming all sorts of sizes. So Luffy, of course, does a red hawk to Hold'em's face because he's holding Tama hostage, beats Hold'em instantly, which is going to really grab the attention of the Beast Pirates. Now Luffy is officially, declared war on Cato's pirate crew. So they get Tama back, everything's good. Let's see here. Law, of course, seeing what's going on, is appalled, comes up, grabs Luffy by the ear and says, "Come on, we're going up to our hiding spot. You're making too much noise," basically. So they take him to Odin's castle. We remember Odin. He's the long past, should be shogun now, guy. And his castle, when he was defeated, put to death, was burned down. And so they go to the ruins of Odin Castle. That's where their hideout is. And that's when everybody learns about Odin. That's not when we learn about Odin, but we can assume this is when Kinemon tells everybody what happened to Odin, his tragic death, being boiled alive, and everything like that. So everybody's up to speed. They're all ready to do what they can to move forward and help Kinemon and everybody take back Wano, basically. So all this is happening. Jack, we all remember Jack the Drought, the freaking mammoth, supposed to be one of the strongest people in Cato's crew. He's part of the All-Stars, so that's 3 steps above the headliners. So you got the headliners, kind of the top 6, which are like X-Drake, Page 1, we'll hear more about him later, Ulti, Black Maria, that merman, Sasaki, did I say who's who? So those are like the top 6 guys that are pretty freaking strong. Obviously, they got X-Drake in them. The numbers, which we've only seen silhouettes of, except this one guy, they're literal giants, and they're beasts. So I assume they're giants with zone devil fruit powers, but we haven't really seen them yet. About to see them. So you got the gifters, which are the Smile users, headliners like Hold'em, and Basil. Basil Hawkins is also a headliner. The top 6 with X Drake. The All-Stars, King, Queen, and Jack, and then Cato, of course. So Jack is back in Leftovers saying, where the hell is everybody? And Ashura comes up. He's kind of the Yakuza leader right now. He was one of the 9 scabbards. So yet again, another guy who's waited all this time for things to change. And he kind of heads off Jack, is able to hold him for a little bit. Basically, what are you doing in this country? These are all mine. All this food is mine. And then the clouds start getting dark, thunder, lightning, and all of a sudden the biggest dragon you've ever seen comes down from the cloud. Literally like the most generic Japanese badass looking dragon you've ever seen comes down from the clouds. And we learn that Cato is a dragon devil fruit user. So he's coming down from the clouds, and he's saying, where is everyone? Jack, bring these people to me. And Basil Hawkins comes out, sees that Cato is drunk. Cato's been drinking, so he's not kind of on top of it. And Basil, worrying that Cato will destroy the town, destroy lots of things that make them money, says, oh, they're all hiding in Odin's castle, direct your attention that way, not knowing that they're actually all in Odin's castle. So what does Cato do from miles away? Blasts his breath at Odin's mountaintop and destroys the whole thing. We think everyone's dead. Luffy, who was on his way to Leftovers town to help, sees what he thinks his crew being destroyed, and obviously he gets pissed. He's sad. Deep down inside, he's probably worried about his crew. So what does he do? He instantly jumps into the air and elephant guns Cato to the floor, starts beating the crap out of him. Cato eventually turns back into his normal body, I assume because Luffy just beat him up a little bit. But then Cato just gets annoyed. He gets up, grabs his club, one club across the face, beats Luffy. He's down, he's knocked out. He has been utterly defeated, and that's it. So Cato tells them to take him to the prison mines. They take Luffy away, and that's when we kind of get the first act finishes, I think, right about there. So basically, everybody else is like, okay, Luffy's captured. They survived, by the way. Luffy's captured. We all just need to lay low and disperse the plan. For the Fire Festival begins in, a week or so. And that is the night we're going to attack Cato's castle. The Fire Festival is a festival that happens every year, where basically Cato's going to get drunk as hell with all of his friends and his crewmates and things like that. And so they'll be the most vulnerable. They'll all be together, and they'll all be off guard, partying. So that's when they're going to attack. They're going to spread the word. So they all spread out, pretending to be different people, doing different things. Let's see here. So... And this is when we kind of start seeing power-ups for the rest of the arc. So, for example, Sanji is pretending to be a noodle stand, and of course he's got the best noodles anywhere in Wano, so everyone's coming to him. Eventually, his cover kind of gets blown, and Page One, who we talked about being one of the top 6 guys, comes out, and he's a Spinosaurus, and he goes full Spinosaurus, starts destroying everything, trying to capture them. Sanji's ready to kick ass, but Law says, no, you can't. If you expose yourself, the plans will be ruined, and, they'll know that you guys are alive, and exactly. So Sanji says, okay, well, I'm going to stop him real quick. I'm going to kick his ass, and he's not going to know who I am. He gets out his raid suit that he was given last arc. His raid suit being the very, very high-tech suit that his family made for him or had ready for him. It's black, he puts it on, he's fully masked, and it allows him to become invisible, which was always Sanji's biggest dream. Next to the all blue and mermaids, it was to be invisible, and we all know why that is. So he becomes invisible, super speed, just ups his speed, ups his strength. He kicks the shit out of the Stegosaurus and hightails it out of there. So boom. Number 1, Sanji's got an upgrade. Another one, the swordsman. Let's see. Hitetsu tells Zoro that he needs to leave his sword Shuichi with them because that's the one from Yuma. It's a national treasure, basically, and they know that he didn't steal it, but people earlier in the arc thought he stole it. They would love for him to leave Wano's national treasure with them, and in return, they will give him a sword called Enma. And so Sora, being a pretty chill guy, so yeah, I think I can do that. Takes Enma, tell him to slice that tree over there. He slices the tree, and instead it slices the whole mountainside cliff face right off. So it's obviously a very powerful sword, but we look back at Zoro, and all of a sudden his whole arm, I believe covered in Armament Hockey, is bone dry. And basically what happened was the sword took Zoro's life force and applied it to the strength. So Zoro basically said, no, that's not your decision, give me that back, and sucks it back from the sword. And everybody else was like, anybody else that would have sucked their whole life force and killed them, So this sword we see is able to take on Armament Hockey, take on the life force of the user. So it's obviously a major upgrade to Zoro. If him being in Soul Control was just trying to slice a tree trunk in half, sliced off the entire cliff. So we got 2, Zoro's power up. Number 3, Luffy. He's in the prison mine. He wakes up, he's next to Eustace Kid. They're in there together, and they have a little friendly competition. Basically, these prison mines are what it sounds like. They're moving giant blocks of stone from one end to the other. And every block of stone they move, they get a little piece of food. So him and Kid are getting fat. They're zooming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They also have these special sea stone handcuffs on that we haven't seen before. And they're weaker than real sea stone. So they allow you to move, they allow you to work, but not allow you to use your powers and things like that. So basically, Luffy's just training with weight belts on, He's working his ass off, and when he takes those off, his strength's going to be through the roof. Not only that, but they meet another old guy, I won't say who, in the prison, and he starts to show Luffy how he can more express his hockey. And how that comes about is they've got these Queen. Queen is, again, one of the all-stars, King, Queen, Jag. Queen is a really funny guy. He likes to DJ, he likes to throw parties, and he's a Brontosaurus devil fruit user. So Queen is putting on a competition. They throw Luffy, this old guy, and a bunch of other people in the ring. Luffy and the old guy have collars on that will chop their heads off if they leave the ring. So basically they're defeating one person after another. Eventually the old guy's collar's going to go off. Luffy freaks out and takes the old guy's collar off. And they're like, how'd you do that? Well, the old guy goes, well, I happen to be an expert on this certain hockey, so let me train you. Basically, about that time, Big Mom shows up, and she's going on a rampage in the mine, and basically Queen gets way up high and just headbutts her right onto Big Mom's head, knocks her out, and that's kind of it. The last kind of transmission they were able to send to Cato and all the other people are that the mine is handled, everything's back to order, when in reality everyone's gone and Luffy's now got all the time in the world to train. And this old guy teaches him how to use this special hockey. And the new hockey, the new Armament Hockey is, I think we've seen it before. We definitely saw it when Raleigh used to take off those slave collars, and I think Sabo was probably using it in Dressrosa. So basically, when you go to punch something, you almost create a force field away from your hand so that before you hit it, you're pushing out that hockey and you're able to destroy things without even touching it. So that's why you're able to grab these indestructible objects and destroy them from within, literally, like sea stone handcuffs and those crazy slave collars and all those kinds of things. So there we go. Power up number 3. Luffy's able to learn this new technique that's going to be able to literally punch through Cato's thick hide. You know, he's going to be able to finally land some good blows that are really going to hurt Cato. So that's the third power-up we got. Inside the prison, we also meet Kawamatsu. He's a kappa, which is a Japanese water demon. Really, he's a fisherman, and he's one of the other 9 scabbards. So Kawamatsu is released by Raizo. Raizo was another 9 scabbard. Infiltrated the prison, let Kawamatsu go. So I can't wait to see him some more as well. Let's see here. Kanjuro is a bad guy. Sorry guys, we learned that. And he's not a bad drawer as well. So he's drawing some really cool stuff that's able to double cross his best friends. Been best friends for how many years, you know? So that's real shitty. We knew there was a secret spy somewhere along the way, but we didn't know who. Orochi, we didn't really talk about Orochi. Orochi's the current shogun, and he's a horrible leader, a horrible person, and he's got the Hydra devil fruit. So we all know what Hydras are. They're the multi-headed serpent, crazy monsters. So Orochi's, this whole arc is dedicated to defeating Cato, and in turn, of course, throwing Orochi, restoring Odin's balance. So Jinbe's back, of course. Jinbe shows up right before the final battle, or the final, the last hurrah, going to Cato's island during the fire festival. Onigashimi is the name of the island. It looks like a giant skull, so that's pretty badass. So, yeah, it's time to attack Onigashimi. They all get their forces together. They go at it. I think the only person we left out is Denjiro. He's been disguised as Orochi's kind of right-hand man, there to protect him, best swordsman ever. Well, guess what? He was one of the 9 scabbards as well. We have Inu Arashi, which is the dog mink fruit, or not fruit, the dog mink tribe. And then Nico Mamushi as well, which is the cat of the mink tribe. They're super powerful. Each of them were part of the Red Scabbards. They're back. Nico Mamushi, she shows up just in time with Marco, the Phoenix. So we've got the first commander of the Whitebeard Pirates is back, and he's ready to help out. He's also the one that knocks Big Mom's pirate ship off the waterfall for the second time. The first time it got knocked off by King, again, one of the All-Stars. And King is a giant, crazy pterodactyl devil fruit user. So there's the 3 All-Stars, and of course they're all 3 ancient zone users, Mammoth, Brontosaurus, and pterodactyl. So they're supposed to be the strongest, you know, so wonder who's going to take on who. We'll see. So Big Mom's pirate ship has been knocked off twice now. The crews just can't get to Wano. They don't know about the secret port, apparently, because there's another secret way into Wano. So right away, Luffy and Kid rush into Wano, and they face Apu again, another supernova. We get this. His devil fruit is so fun and interesting as well, so we get to see him kind of go all out as well. Killer, we hadn't talked about Killer, and I'll probably leave some of those parts out, but Killer basically says for Apu's attack to work, you have to hear him, so you can either be out of range or you block your ears, and his attacks won't hurt you. So his DJing skills and moves are just really fun to see. But Luffy and Kid, of course, get away, and they're on their way to Cato and his family. So everybody's infiltrating from different spots. Basically, we get to this part where Cato's got a big announcement. Big Mom comes out. They announce that they are having an alliance. So we got now 2 Yonkos, 4 Emperors of the Sea. We have 2 of them teaming up together to take on the world, and they announce that they're going after the ancient weapons. Even more crazier. So Pluton, Poseidon, those ancient weapons that go all the way back to Alabaster and Fishman Island Arc. So those things are going on. By the way, we'll get to that later. That announcement has come. Cato chops off Orochi's head, which we all know he's a Hydra fruit user, so you know he's going to be back. There's no way in hell that Oda would just make him a Hydra devil fruit user And the one way you can't kill a Hydra is to chop off his head and just make it, well, it didn't count this time, he's dead. No, Orochi's definitely not dead, he's coming back. And at the same time, Cato says, and also I want to make my son, Yamato, the new shogun. And about that time, Luffy and Yamato, who have already met, who are in the ceiling, fall out of the ceiling and go, like hell, you're going to make me shogun. And Luffy, like hell, you're going to kill Momo. They got Momo crucified up there, ready to kill him because he's the last bloodline of Odin. So they're going to kill Odin. Of course, Luffy and Yamato come through the ceiling. Yamato is much like Odin. He is, he's wearing the same big knot on the back. He talks to Luffy and he says, look, I've got Odin's journal here. I read all about it. I want to join your crew. I want to travel the sea, and obviously they are very powerful because they took out a couple of the top 6 earlier to get away. They took out Page 1 and Ulti, I believe, and Ulti's got another dinosaur fruit user. Takes him out with one swipe of her club. Yes, I said her. Got another gender swap here going on. So it's actually Cato's daughter. Yeah, her name is Yamato, but to be more like Odin and to take on a more manly impression, she has disguised herself as a man. So she's actually a very pretty lady, and she apparently wants to join Luffy's crew. She's heard a lot about Luffy, and maybe it'll happen, This kind of brings us up to what last chapter was. Again, for me, it's July 27th, 2020. There should be a chapter coming out this week. I can't wait. Again, and them falling through the attic was the last thing I saw. So the next question is, what's going to happen next? Literally everything has led up to this exact moment. Who knows? They might start talking about the Reverie again, things like that. I hope they just keep pushing through Wano until it's over, because I can't wait. Is Yamato going to join Luffy's crew? I don't know what profession they have. But we did find out she is wearing some sea stone handcuffs, much like Luffy used to wear. So Luffy was kind of like, you want me to take those off for you? They didn't have time. So yeah, what's going to happen? Everyone's attacking Onigashima now. The Fire Festival is in full swing. And we'll see. So that's where we've come. I see a lot of things happening, but it's definitely going to lead up to the biggest war of all in One Piece history. So it's definitely something to catch up on. And yeah, that's kind of it. So stay tuned for next week's episode, and thanks for watching. Have a good one.